No thing is still. It took me quite a while to realize that stillness is not the absence of movement. I used to think of quiet as something flat, something empty, something waiting to be disturbed. But the longer I've stood in the field, both literally and otherwise, the more obvious it's become that nothing is ever truly still. What I once called silence is full. What I once called empty is humming. Stand alone long enough among trees and you begin to feel it. Not as sound exactly, but as a tone. The grove holds a kind of coherence, a gathered presence. The air shifts when you enter into it. Your breathing changes before you consciously decide to slow it. Something in the body adjusts. It's subtle. It's undeniable. The land is not static. It vibrates, not frantically, not chaotically, but with a steady intelligence that just seems older than any of this explanation is ever going to be. I've noticed the same thing when you're in rooms, when you walk into a space after an argument, when the air feels thick and almost like metallic, or walk into a space where there's been laughter. And the walls seem wider, the room feels more spacious. Nothing visible has changed, the furniture's the same, the objects are the same, and yet the field is different. Something has altered in its tone. The old idea that everything moves, that nothing truly rests, has stopped being just a philosophical thing for me, and it's become very much more practical. Emotional states are not solid blocks; they are temperatures. Anger is not a separate substance from calm; it's a faster, sharper rate. Grief is not an enemy to joy, it's a deeper, slower current of the same river. Even despair carries motion within it. What changes is the tempo, the density, the quality of the hum. When I work with people, I rarely think in terms of fixing anything anymore. I listen instead for that tone. There's a field, where is the field contracted? Where is it overcharged? Where is it thin? And often just the smallest shift, just a change in posture, a different breath, a word spoken from the body instead of the head, alters the entire atmosphere. Not because something has been removed, but because that rate has changed. The current is the same, but the frequency is now different. And I guess music made this obvious probably long before philosophy did. A slow drum carries weight, a rapid one lifts the chest. A note held long enough reshapes the air in the room. I love that idea. Silence between beats is not nothing. It is tension, expectancy, presence. The difference between chaos and coherence is rarely volume. It's alignment. It's when instruments are out of tune, even gently, something unsettles. When they're aligned, in tune, even quietly, the space settles within them. And I think the land works in the same way. Winter is not dead, it is slowed. Summer is not superior, it is accelerated. The oak does not hurry to prove itself, it deepens at its own pace. To stand amongst trees is to feel that growth is not linear, but rhythmic. Expansion and contraction, surge and withdrawal, breath in, breath out. Nothing is static, everything participates. So I've come to see that what is often called magic is less about imposing will and more about that attunement, not forcing change, not but but just adjusting the tone, not battling density, but working with it. When my own inner field is chaotic, the world feels resistant. When I settle, not suppressing, not pretending, but settling, something responds. The outer does not obey, it harmonizes. There are moments when this becomes truly unmistakable. A conversation that could have been tipped into conflict softens because one person shifts their cadence. A decision made from contraction ripples differently than one made from steadiness. Even attention itself has texture. When I attend to something gently, it opens. When I grip it tightly, it tightens in return. Nothing is still. Nothing is still. The breath moves, the blood moves, the weather moves through the sky and through the body alike. The field is alive. What changes is whether I'm moving unconsciously within it or consciously with it. The more I notice the less interested I become in dramatic gestures, weirdly. Grand decorations rarely shift the tone for very long. A steady presence does. A subtle change in frequency does. The grove does not shout to be heard. It hums and everything around it adjusts. Listening to the field has become a practice without ritual. It's simply attention widened slightly beyond the edges of thought. When I allow myself to feel the hum beneath words, beneath mood, beneath story, I find that change is already happening. Not as something to achieve, but as something to participate in. Nothing is still. Not the land, not the body, not the silence between us. The question is no longer whether movement exists, it's whether I'm willing to listen closely enough to feel its rhythm, and when needed, to shift my own. Have a great one.